Welcome to Wicked Felina. I'm Felina. Did you know, and I do hope there's some Democrats out there listening to me, there's a reason why the left has embraced Islam. It's because it's seen as a non-white religion. Christianity is seen as a European, Western religion. And here's a really funny thing. It's a really funny haha. Well, of the major religions of the world, let's start with Buddhism. Buddha is described, and the early icons of him have gold skin and blue eyes. Buddha had gold skin and blue eyes. Even though he came from Upper India, Nepal, he was technically a Caucasian. And let's go to Islam. There's about 7 places describing Muhammad, blessings and peace be upon him. About 7 places in the Hadiths. And this is something that's known among Muslims. A lot of Muslims in Africa know all about it. Well, about 7 places describe him as the whitest of men. And if you're looking for him, that's how you'll find him. That nothing is whiter than he is. Compared to the other people, he is the whitest. And his white hairs. And they have in a jar, I've got this beautifully covered, was one of his hairs from his beard and was red. And he painted it henna. He headed it because when he was young, he had red hair. So he had white skin and red hair. So many Muslims dye their beard, even though they're black and they never had red hair, they dye their beard with henna so they can imitate the Prophet, not just his life, but what he looked like. Another interesting thing that I just heard recently from a Pakistani Muslim who is not a political Muslim, doesn't follow all those things, a very good man. He said that he was born in England, and this whole thing with Tony Robinson about the girls in foster homes, and there's been thousands and thousands of them for about 40 years that were prostituted out to Pakistani Muslim men. And nobody said anything because they were afraid of being called racist. So they prostituted young girls out to them, 12, 13, 14, possibly younger. And in these countries, and he said, because he was raised a Muslim and he's Pakistani, he said that he's told, and the community tells them, that any girl that's white is just a piece of meat. They're dirt. they're trash. So we think we're always worried about what the Muslim community, no backlash on the Muslim community. But little do we know that in Pakistan, they don't know really that only if they did know. See, Pakistan is a construct. It's not really a country. It is a part of India, and the Muslims moved there because they were warring with the Hindus, and tens of millions of Hindus were killed because they would convert to Islam. So they're in Pakistan. If only these Pakistani Muslims read the Hadiths and they realize that Muhammad, blessings and peace be upon him, was white and had red hair. So the women, the young girls that they're defaming, that they're treating like trash, are the same color as their prophet. But they don't know this. See, so there is discrimination. People of all shades discriminate. And it's good that Tommy Robinson was let free. He was only reading out of the Guardian in front of the courthouse. He was just reading out of the Guardian, something that had already been printed. It's a sad thing about it. And he went to jail and they tortured him there. And he was an extremist at one time, but he saw the light. And he's just a hardworking, regular guy. And he saw that there was an injustice being done. And he let the people know about it. But I think it's terribly interesting that, see, and the Louis Farrakhan and Africa, they believe that Christianity is the religion of the white man and Islam is the religion of the black man. And when Islam came here and Muhammad Ali was converted, he wanted to belong to a religion that was a black man's religion, not a white man's. He didn't read the Hadiths either. He didn't know the truth. There's many Hadiths. Sahih al-Bukhari, which I own the entire set, Sahih Muslim, Sunnah Abu Dawud. Those are the top 3. There's many of them. And little do they know, and little does the left, who went from the man is always wrong when abuse is going on, it's always the man that does it. And beating a woman and abuse, emotional and physical abuse, is bad. But then the left, Hillary, too, embraced Islam, which says in Surah 434, verse 34, that if you think that your wife might be thinking independently, you could banish her to beds apart and then beat her into submission. And that there's a version for the West, particularly for the West, that says beat her added the word softly, but the word softly is not in the original Arabic Quran. It isn't. It made it more palatable if you beat her softly. But in Islamic countries, these women, they wear white. They're put in the middle of a stadium where everybody watches, and they're beaten until the blood comes through their white garments. So if I was a Muslim woman, I would certainly watch my P's and Q's and do everything my husband wanted me to do. I would be very good at that. These poor women are probably the best women, the best people in the world. And I feel sorry for them. And when it did come out in England that these women were being beaten, and David Cameron, the Prime Minister, said, well, they should learn English. That way they can go to a women's shelter and report it. And then he was condemned for being Islamophobic. So you're Islamophobic if you speak English and can report that you're being beaten up. Well, you certainly don't want to do that because there's going to be a big backlash in the Islamic community because it's the law in the Quran. And the left has embraced this and somehow they left women. They left women who were abused. And only white Christian men can be put in jail. It's not any man who beats his wife. It doesn't matter color of skin or religion, I don't care. We shouldn't care. That part we shouldn't care about. As Martin Luther King really, really, really tried to tell us, but we're not listening to him. See, we're not listening to Martin Luther King, who did it peaceful, who marched peacefully, and he rejected the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers wanted to do riots in the streets and beat white people up and do the burnings and the riots and all that stuff. Like when Obama was first elected, they were in front of the polling place and they had clubs, billy clubs, intimidating white people. So that's against the law. You can't be intimidated. You should be able to vote for who you want to vote for. But Eric Holder, the Attorney General, said, I don't want to send any more of my people to jail. So you let them go. So you can see that between the two, the Martin Luther King and Black Panthers, the Obama administration seemed to follow by supporting everything that went on during that administration. You kind of see what side he may have fallen on, because he was the man that should have come forward and begged for peace and for people to come together. And racism of any kind should be looked down on from anyone. He could have brought us together. He was the perfect person. He could have done it. But something else happened during those 8 years that we may never recover from. And England is suffering. And isn't that interesting? Getting back to religion. Now, Jesus is the religion of the white man. How can that be? The missionaries went to Egypt and India. They went, the apostles went all over. They didn't cross the Atlantic, but they went to, all these countries, Lebanon, most of these countries that are now Muslim were Christian across Mediterranean, around the Mediterranean. They're all Muslim now, and even part of India is Muslim, but they were Christian first. So Muhammad, who was white with red hair, and I could be related to him actually. My last name is actually Egyptian. It's Egyptian. And it was once a defamatory word in the Middle Ages. And there's a reason why for that. But though I'm white, the funny thing is that Cana, the people of Cana, where Jesus was born, those particular areas, from southern Italy to Greece and all through Cana, Israel today, Jordan, Egypt. They're dark-skinned, right? Jesus is actually the only one out of the major religions that was probably a brown-skinned person with dark hair and brown eyes. He's the only one, and he's the one that the world is rejecting. Someone hits you on one cheek, turn, let them hit the other. If someone takes your cloak, give them your coat as well. Give to all who ask of you. A man has no greater love, a human has no greater love than this, to lay down one's life for a friend. I go to lay down my life for you. Love your neighbor as yourself, as you love your Lord, with all your heart, your soul, and your strength. Love one another as I have loved you. Really not a bad religion. Really not a bad religion. And it is the only one that is not white. It is not white. Turkey is also Christian. But it all came down. Islam was spread through fire and sword. That's how Muhammad spread his religion. If you don't convert, that's how it was spread, not through missionaries. So Christianity, as wonderful as Islam is, and if everyone knew that Muhammad was white-skinned and red hair, then people would be throwing roses at me when I walked down the street. White would be it. White would be the in thing. That's amazing if people actually read and studied and knew the truth. People wouldn't be hating on white people. So Jesus, maybe stop hating Christians, because Jesus, he's not so bad. He really isn't so bad. And he's the only one that probably was not white, was dark-skinned. Maybe not black, dark, maybe not that, as dark as that, but he certainly wasn't white. And his religion's not too bad. So, if you're going to honor Muhammad, start respecting white people then. And white people should respect people who are not white, because Jesus wasn't white, right? And of course, Buddha's gold. I guess he was royalty. I guess we have to respect royalty too. So, that's it for now. Think about what I just taught you. You learned a lot. And share my videos. I'm trying very hard to educate people, to get the truth out, and to stop the civil war that's coming. Okay, thank you. I appreciate if one of you does it, one or even two, oh my God, that would be really helpful for all of us. All right, one little kiss from Felina.